back to Olympic Foil. Today, I have a special guest, Jake Hurst, and we are going to be making our predictions for the men's foil team event in Paris. Thanks, Jake. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Okay, so I have a feeling that we're going to disagree, but let's just start maybe with the 8 teams who have qualified. Number 1 ranked in the world right now is Japan, the winner of the World Championships in Milan. They did very well, and so I guess coming in they are the favorites. Number 2 we have Italy. I think that's correct.
Yeah, number 2 is Italy.
Yeah, Italy. So
they've won a couple World Cups this season. They just came third at the zonals that just finished. I think that arguably the strongest team on paper. They have the best aggregate of rankings with their individuals. Then number 3 is the US, as always. The US is always there.
Strong. Number 1, number 5, number 9, I think, are their 3 guys right now.
Something like that. Yeah, they have another strong team, but sometimes it just always seem to mess up at big championships.
That is, it's true. That does keep happening. Yeah, I have a feeling like Itkin is really good right now. Really, really, really good right now.
A lot of predictions, especially for the individual, will just be whoever on their day is the best, because we've seen almost every fencer on this list on their day be insane. Like Itkin in Washington was unstoppable, same as a Chung in Shanghai. So there'll be a lot of variables, but for the team, I'm pretty confident with what I've picked so far.
Yeah, and then 4th auto qualified team is France.
Still qualified on merit, but host nation.
The reigning Olympic champions.
That's right, and the team is pretty much unchanged. They've lost Lepeshu, but they've gained Chastanet, which is it's a very bold move to not change the team, especially with a Mertine that's aging and doubling down, especially because in the Olympic cycle, the team has changed. We've had Ediri, Chastanet, Savin, Loisel. They've all gone through the team too. So everyone has had a fair opportunity to earn their spot on the team.
It's been very deep. I thought Loisel would go, but I think he got injured. Maybe.
I don't know, but I think the reason that they picked Chastanet was that every time Chastanet was in the team, they seemed to win. I think Tokoname was the main example of that, and his style is so wild that it can throw off so many people. And France just have come off of winning the Euros, and they looked amazing in the final. So definitely a confidence booster for them. And Chastanet did look good. Pauty looked amazing too. So I'm expecting them to focus on winning, on retaining their Olympic title.
So these 4 teams are the favorites for semis, I would say, and then we have the ones who clawed their way to the top in their respective zones, who are number 5, China. Really narrow race with Hong Kong at the end there, but China made it through. 2nd place at the World Championships. Number 6,
Egypt.
Poland. Is it Egypt? Sorry.
It's Egypt.
I don't have it in front of me. I should have brought it up. Egypt, yeah.
Poland are number 9, aren't they?
Possibly. They certainly, it wasn't difficult for Egypt to get that spot.
No, Egypt
really
is always Egypt is always a given that they're gonna be at the Olympics, but how far they go tends to be a bit of an obvious answer.
They're so strong right now, though. Like it's
they
crazy.
are.
Hamza.
Aboukasim and Tolba.
Yeah, the gift of them getting Tolba right before the Olympics. It's just he pops off and then bang, really strong team.
There was a small scare that Aboukasim wasn't going to be there, because between At the beginning of the first half of the season, he wasn't on the circuit, and then randomly popped up in Cairo, looking a bit out of shape. Didn't make second day, but I watched him in Shanghai and almost beat Hamza. I thought he won because there was a few dodgy calls from the ref, but it shows that his skills just will never go away.
He's still strong.
Even since 2012, he's always been the guy that you can never mess with.
So very good team in Egypt, and then Canada have also got their spot at the end.
Canada's another kind of obvious one. As long as the US is still top 4 in the world, Canada seem to always find a way through. If not them, then it's Brazil. But yeah, the Canadians have a pretty young team. They got Van Hasta, who's sort of the veteran of the team, but then the rest of the cohort is quite young. The individual fencers are Blake Brozis and Daniel Gu. Mm-hmm. And the reserve is Bogdan Hamilton, so a super young. I think a lot of them have just finished their juniors. Yeah, so right. They're super young with good potential in the future.
And I think I jumped over Poland, actually.
Yeah, we did.
Canada are beneath Poland, and number 7 is Poland. They won the European battle. They made it. They were so close before, I remember. But yeah, I'm very happy that Poland got their shot.
Yeah, Poland's the European race was pretty tough. It was between Poland, Germany, Hungary, and Belgium, and Great Britain were also in the mix. But it definitely came to the last World Cup in Cairo. It was very tense, but Poland have a pretty solid lineup of 5 fencers.
Yeah.
Because right now the team that's been confirmed is CS, Jakiewicz, Wojkowiak, and Żonkowski is the reserve, which was to me a massive shock.
Yeah.
Especially not seeing Rajski, because Rajski was on fire in the second part of the season, and he came top 8 at Euros.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a shock to see him finish his career that way without an Olympic selection.
I was also surprised, and yeah, that final match he made top 8, and it was 15-14 versus Marini for the semi, so it was almost top 4.
Yeah, that's right, and he put out Yavador in Washington to sort of confirm Dosa's and Šupanić's spot.
Poland, they've got a lot of strong guys, which is how this happened. And beating the United States earlier in the season was a great result for them.
Yeah, looking at Poland, they have actually been one of the most consistent teams in the bottom half of the draw. They made top 8 at every single World Cup this season except for one, which was Hong Kong. They made top 16, but this was after Olympic qualies, so you can sort of overlook it. But they've been consistently in the top 8 of the world, or in the world rankings and World Cups. Even with the top 8 of the worlds, they've just always been there. Even without a medal at European Games, because getting top 8 at European Games is not really the start of an Olympic quali that you want.
No, yeah, they won on consistency, yeah, and it's even more interesting will be the individual, I think, but we'll have to wait for predictions for that. Although I do plan, I think we should do an analysis of that.
Yeah, I think it deserves its own video. But I just want to quickly go back to the Chinese team. They're the only team that have not announced their team so far, or their lineup. I think. Okay. I don't think we know, but I'm willing to predict that it will be Mo Zhiwei, Haiwei Chen, and Sujay. There will be the 3 individual fencers, and Wu Bin as the 4th.
That would be a shame, seems to be the general. It's so interesting. I would love to see him in the individual.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the standard lineup, but we do love Wu Bin.
Was he the 4th in the World Championships?
He was.
Okay.
But he did fence, I think.
Yeah, I remember.
He did fence in the final.
Yeah.
So yes, shall we get into the predictions?
Definitely. So, right, first quarterfinal, number 1 against number 8, Japan, Canada. I think it's pretty obvious. Japan's got this. Their team is so solid. Lepeshu is.
Matsuyama, Shikine, Iimura as their.
That's right, and then Nagano as the reserve. If I was Lepeshu, I would put Nagano in the starting, because then come semi-final you can put him off so that he will get his medal.
Can you?
So the rule with teams in the Olympics is that the moment you sub someone out, they can never come back on. However, to get a medal, you have to fence. Yeah. So this is why a lot of teams tend to put their reserves on the last bout, on the last leg of the team, which is why we saw Tony Elise against Russia in the 8th leg or the 7th leg, because he hadn't fenced all day and he needed a medal.
Yeah.
Or the same reason why Pauty didn't fence the rest of Tokyo 2020, because he'd been subbed off after fencing Egypt.
So you're saying Lepeshu will start Nagano?
Yeah, so he will start him and then take him off after the Canadian, after winning against Canada, so that at least he's got his medal if they get one, and then you can just, you've got 2 matches with your core of Matsuyama, Iimura, and Shikine. It's a super strong core. We've got a Shikine that lost a bit of form at the beginning of the season, but he bounced back quite well. I think he got a medal in Hong Kong.
Yeah. And
then Iimura's been on fire. He's impressed me the most this season. He's now top 16 in the world. I think he's world number 12. He medaled in Shanghai. He got top 8 in Washington. He's been super impressive. And he is also my dark horse for the individual event.
Okay. Looking forward to that individual analysis. What were you saying?
Who do you think's going to start as number 4 then? Like the shoe?
So who's going to be the reserve or the starting? I think, I don't know. I think it doesn't really matter, but they'll finish with Matsuyama for sure. Matsuyama's always been the finisher. Maybe they'll take off Shikine because he's very streaky. Yeah. If he's not feeling good, he can kind of tank the team, but Iimura and Matsuyama really do control the bout. So I have Japan winning comfortably against Canada.
No disagreement here. I should say 3 votes for
It would be
Japan.
cool to see. It would be cool to see. But,
It would take
if there's an upset, then you know what, it'll probably be one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. But Japan had a good run in the last Olympics. We have to remember that Japan beat Italy 3 years ago and gave France a really tough fight in the semis. So even if it was completely inexperienced, they didn't even qualify. So we know that Japan always turn up in the team event. This season, they've never not made a semi-final, except for in Hong Kong when they lost to Singapore 45-44. But again, this is the Hong Kong World Cup. I'm very happy to discount it because post qualification, you can coast.
Yeah, they had already qualified, so they might have been too relaxed. Yeah. So yeah, number 2 versus number 7, I would say then. The next probably clearest bout, Poland versus Italy.
Yeah, that's right. It just happened yesterday, or 2 days ago, at the bronze medal for the European champs. Italy looking comfortable. That team is, again, they have an abundance of fences that they could have sent. The team is going to be Marini, Macchi, Bianchi, with Focconi as the reserve.
Oh,
we can't really...
Reserve.
Yes, based on individual results, Bianchi took that last spot. It's a strong lineup. We could have had Gorozzo, we could have had Luperi. It's a shame that Gorozzo had to retire, but you know, Cerioni decides at the end of the day.
And that was they fielded the exact Olympic teams against each other earlier this week, right? At the Euros.
Yeah, that's right. They
perfect.
Well, you might as well prep for the Olympics. Because I remember that they did rest. The Polish team did rest. I don't know who they rested Jonkowski in the individual, so that they only brought him in for the team. So there's definitely a lot of tactics that they're trying to implement. but Italy are too strong for me.
It's not likely, yeah.
They're so systematic with their approach. They have three super strong. They have a reigning world champion. They have a former European champion, and a Bianchi that is surging this season. He just won his first World Cup. It's a no-brainer for me.
Yes,
but then
it's interesting that I feel each Polish fencer is dangerous in the individual.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, CS he's won European games before. Yakiewicz is a consistent performer in the 32s and the 64. Wojkowiak as well is very dangerous, but again, I don't think that man for man this Italian team is too strong, and recency bias indicates that Italy will win quite comfortably.
So yeah, that's our vote. Italy probably winning this match, and then so getting to the narrower matches, we have the United States versus Egypt. I think this is actually going to be kind of dangerous for the United States, but they win.
Yep, agreed. I got the US winning. It will be close again, but yeah, I got the USA winning. Egypt have a really bad form in teams. Their best finish was 7th place in a World Cup. They struggle to make even top 8s in World Cups, even though they have such a high seeding, but that's based on them winning zonals every year.
That's true. They haven't actually got a result, although I remember a few competitions ago, they were 45-44 with Italy.
Yep.
Yeah, that would have been quite something. You think they win?
I think they have a good chance. It's probably the closest one. I think you guys said that's probably the closest one we've talked about so far. But
maybe
like Hamza
has
a lot of experience against the US fencers. And he's probably their strongest fencer right now, Egypt.
It might depend on Tolba, depending on how if he performs. Maybe he gets a bit of stage fright. It'll be his first Olympics. He is super young. I think he's still a cadet. So maybe he gets stage fright.
It's madness that, from my perspective, I saw him fencing at cadet events, and then no time has passed, and boom, Olympics. So the strength is incredible. It's Massialas, Meinhardt, Itkin is the top 3, I think,
and then Chamley Watson.
Yeah, if someone drops something in Egypt are strong, there's a chance. But I think 45-40, 45-41 maybe for USA.
I think I think it's going to be a lot less close. I think the US I think will dominate. They have a Gerek Meinhardt who we don't know when he's going to retire. He will never retire. Never. Maybe he's got one more cycle in him. Massialas has I think come off of one of the best seasons of his career.
Yeah, again.
And that's acknowledging his 2016 season. He won the opening World Cup in Istanbul. He's just been super solid this season, and Itkin won Itkin is now world number 1.
Yeah, Itkin has no weaknesses.
So
the perfect fencer right now, Itkin. Yeah.
So I think that for me that core is too strong. But yeah, Hamza could, if Hamza could rally and carry the team, they could maybe put a few seeds of doubt for the US for the semifinals.
Now, coming back to the thing with the Olympic sub question. Do you think that they're going to start Chamley Watson in that match?
I don't think so. This is kind of where my predictions will start to be a bit obvious, but I think they're going to keep him for the medal round. Whichever medal it is, I'm not going to say yet, but I think that they don't. Egypt is not a laughing matter.
Yeah.
We don't. Chamley Watson has been the most inconsistent fencer within those 4. I'd be very scared to start him, but maybe they do another thing with just like Japan and Nagano, bring him on against Egypt and then sub him off and forget about him. I think wouldn't say he's a liability, but again, he's another streaky player that if he gets a flick, we've got a highlight reel, but sometimes he can be a bit guilty of fishing for those flicks too often and looking for the highlight reels instead of building up a good streak of hits.
He seems to do better when the stakes are higher, actually, because he's less inclined to fish for the weird touches, I think. Like Italy, or not Italy, USA versus Russia 2018, was it? Where he made an 11 to 1 point comeback. That kind of thing. He can be crucial.
Yeah, we know he's got it in him, but then I always get reminded of legs such as bronze medal match in World Championships in Milan when Qinyu Liang beat him 5-0 with 5 running attacks or something like that, and had almost no respect for his distance. So maybe if I wonder if, for example, Tolba and Abou Kassim will just, if you lack respect for him, you can probably win a leg quite comfortably. But he is a world champion 11 years ago. He does remind us of that when
this
he beats
teams, so it's a unit.
It's still a strong core, and USA have past 3 Olympics have always made the semifinals. I don't see their streak ending, but then it would be it's not an easy first match, but just like France 3 years ago, I think they'll win.
And then speaking of France, the last table of 8 match, China versus France, is for sure the closest, I would say.
Yeah, agreed. I've got this as the closest. I even think that this could be a 45-44 situation. But I've got France winning it. It's their home games. These French fencers know the stakes that are at play 100%.
Yeah, I would say.
They cannot lose to China. They've lost to China before, notably at Worlds. Yeah. So we know that this Chinese team is such an unsung hero or even dark horse of men's foil, because they're not very publicized. There's not a lot of media coverage on them, so we tend to forget about them. But Mo Zhiwei is one of the best fencers on the circuit at the moment. He is so dangerous. He should not be overlooked. Haiwei Chen is also a World Cup medalist, has been on the circuit for ages. Yeah. And we've got Zhiwei, who is super young, allegedly.
Do you know?
But I won't go into details about forged passports, but people can sort of guess what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But they are a super strong team. They did come second at Worlds, so they've got it in them. What other result? Not many notable results, but they always seem to. They came 4th in Istanbul. They came 4th in Hong Kong. They've made 5th places in Paris and Cairo. So
did they beat Japan and win? Am I remembering this?
Asian champs. I thought Japan won Asian champs. Maybe it was Asian Games.
Maybe they beat Hong Kong. Well, my memory's not the greatest.
To be honest, the Asian champs and Asian Games were a bit. I struggled to find the results, or even know what counted for what. But we know that this Chinese team can do damage.
Yes, they really, even as individuals, they're okay. Mm-hmm. As a team, they've been, I think, a bit more than the sum of their parts.
Exactly. I agree. They really make use of the power of friendship with their lineup. But they are so secretive, so we have no idea what is going on with that team, and it sort of is their charm and their strength is that we just have no idea what is going to come out of them. But Mo Zhiwei medaled in Cairo. He is fantastic. If China were to beat France, which I don't think so, it would be carried by a Mo Zhiwei, and then the other teammates making up or kind of holding the score. Yeah. With, for example, I could picture maybe a Lefort fishing for hits too much or overextending a lot with his flashes, and a Pauty wanting to flesh every action.
If they don't keep their heads, it would be dangerous. And also, this is one where an injury would be absolutely very problematic.
Yeah, it will be super tough, and I think it will be decided in the 9th leg.
I have a feeling it'll go toward France, but almost like 50-50.
I think that
45,
France will
43.
still edge it out just because looking at how they fenced at CIP this year, Pauty was amazing at CIP in front of a home crowd. They feed off the energy. They're super motivated. I think this is what they've been preparing for ever since they won the Olympics 3 years ago. They want to defend that title. It will be massive for the country. So I think that as a first round, they'll be expecting to beat China.
I think China have it, actually. It's probably slightly, this is definitely the closest one. But I feel like if the French team, any one of them, falls down at any point, like China are just such a cohesive team, you know what I mean?
The mental stability, I think
they could really punish them for it.
that's the shot.
Yeah.
I agree with. I still think France will win, but the shot is that if France fumble, China kind of. I feel like they've got it together.
Yeah, they're very solid mentally. They don't seem to crack mentally a lot. It'll be very dependent on whoever France start. My idea would be to either pick one of Pauty or Chastanet. It would be very risky to pick both of them as a starter. Mertine would be very nice at controlling the bout. He doesn't do a lot of wild actions, whereas a Shasta and a Pauty, they're both very wild fencers.
Is Mertine the substitute?
No, Chastanet is a substitute.
Chastanet is a substitute. Okay, yeah.
But Chastanet is a really good performer in teams. He seems to break the rhythm. He has a very unusual style. We saw this against Poland and Hungary at the Euros that just finished. He is really good at dictating the pace of the bout and breaking the rhythm of his opponents. Yeah. So maybe China are not expecting this. They are very solid, but then also not very. They're not all. There are days when they're not world class, but still solid. So I think that France,
their incredible streaks are lacking, a bit lacking, except for Worlds.
Yeah, whereas France, they've won a World Cup this season. However, we do have to. They've made 2 top 16s as well this season. They lost to Belgium in Istanbul, and they came 10th in Cairo. So we have seen instances where France can implode mentally and almost seem to give up the entire competition if they lose.
A little aside, but I really think that Belgium might be the emergent sort of team of the next cycle. They have the setup, like they could maybe, and they came Euros. It was 6th.
Yeah, that's right.
I think they might end up getting medals pretty regular and even challenging Poland and Germany and those guys for the European slot next time in LA. But let's see.
Yeah, the Olympic qualifying format is not set up fairly for smaller nations, because if you're the best in Europe, it's pretty tough it's almost impossible to qualify. So you have to pick one between Poland, Germany, Hungary, Great Britain, Belgium, sometimes Spain.
Yeah.
It's really unfair. And again, I wish that more European nations were represented, because so many of the Belgian team it really are up and coming and a massive threat to men's foil.
Yeah, to the whole thing. So on to the semi-finals then, and then we can do a split sort of analysis based on Andrew's China pick.
Yeah, like crackpot takes.
It's not crackpot. It's like I'm going to be on the edge of my seat watching that bout for sure. And you might not say that for like Japan, Canada. Like I'll watch it. Obviously, I'm going to watch everything, but it won't be as nail biting, I think. So yeah, semis. Japan versus number 4.
I have Japan against France.
Yeah.
I have Japan. Yeah. Japan are super strong. They're very composed. Particularly if they beat Canada quite comfortably, I don't see them stopping their streak. They are always in a final. This season, including Worlds, they've made 4 finals. They won their first World Cup a year ago in Cairo. Lepeshu has definitely done
really
something to
helpful
this
against France.
Japanese
He's a real
team.
liability for France.
So Lepeshu has done something to this Japanese team that has turned them into the best generation of Japanese fencing that we've seen since Yuki Ota. And it was a surprising stat that Japan had never won a World Cup in teams, because I thought that with a team of Yuki Ota and Uchida and even Nagano, these were super strong lineups, but had never made it to the final.
Yeah.
Well, won a final. So it was surprising. But yeah, this Japanese team is super strong. I think that France will be pretty exhausted after their bout against China.
That's a great point, actually. I hadn't thought of that.
So this is where the 1% of the 1% difference in fencing ability will show. I think it'll be close. I think about 45-36 or 37.
Mm-hmm.
But I see Matsuyama. We saw Matsuyama at the last Olympics almost beat France.
By himself.
Yeah, but it was a really good Olympics for him. And we've got Iimura that is unstoppable at the moment. And then this is when Shikine will look at himself and say, I need to start. I need to start, carrying my own weight as well. And
the linchpin, yeah.
So I think that probably a leg that would be quite interesting to watch would be Shikine Pauty or Shikine Shastane. It will be a big clash of awkward styles and see who can power through. I think that there will be the semi-final that everyone will be watching. Everyone will stop to watch this match. I think it will be the match of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But I have Japan winning and making the final.
Against France, I would agree with that.
Yeah, Japan beats France.
I mean, I said China would beat France, but
Yeah. And what do you
if
think?
they move on to, I think.
What do you think? China, Japan.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a match we've seen before. That Japan won, right?
Oh, yeah,
World
yeah.
Championships. But that would, that would be really close.
Yeah. It's semis, so for sure, I think every bout's going to be on that the knife's edge.
Yeah. China, Canada, now that would be an interesting match.
So,
But Japan, China, that's 50-50. I would say that's probably a 50-50 shot. If it happens.
he's a strong China supporter.
Yeah, he's okay. Well, I even think if it was Japan, China, it would still be Japan. Historically, they've Asian championships, world championships. We've always Japan have always prevailed, and as much as I like an upset, this will not be that match for me. It's too Japan is too solid.
Yeah, I have a feeling that
They are number one.
They're number one for a reason. Exactly.
Do you think Lefort might be able to sort of dominate?
Of course, you can never count out Lefort. He's really good, but it's very hard to rely on one fencer to carry against the might of Japan. This is an instance where you're going to need Pauty and Shasta and Mertine to be on it from the beginning, and again carry your own weight. It doesn't always have to be winning legs 5-0. It can even be winning every single leg 5-4, and on the aggregate score you win 45-36.
Yeah.
It's making sure that on every single leg you are winning and you're doing your job. And if you're having a bad moment, damage control and kind of regain composure.
Yes.
And I think that the composure is on the Japanese side. We rarely see meltdowns from Japan, but we see a lot of meltdowns, particularly from the French coaching staff. They are so fired up when they win, but when they lose, it's some of the most sour. They have the most sour faces when they lose. So I'm just worried that France will get carried emotionally. They will get carried away emotionally if they start to lose.
They're under a lot of pressure.
the duo of Iimura and Matsuyama really is incredibly strong. So I'm going to vote also Japan. It's not going to be a popular match if that happens. But
No, it won't. I think I wouldn't be surprised if people leave the venue. People are wanting to see France win. It's quite obvious. Reigning Olympic champions, but I think Le Peshu goes to a third Olympic final in a row.
With the caveat that it's possible, the spirit of France possesses France, and they beat them.
Yeah, it's always possible, but
because he's the coach for Japan.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that's why.
And then
But yeah, I think Japan solid favorites. I'm sticking with rankings for now. A bit boring picks maybe, but France Japan will be the most. I think will be the most interesting fight of the entire Olympics.
The classic is next, I think. USA Italy.
Oh.
Or the new classic.
How many times have we seen this bout? But again, the teams, the Team USA, quite sort of unchanged as always. They have the same core, but this is probably Meinhardt's last Olympics. Massialas is.
I would love that.
But
I've done a lot of Olympics though now.
But I initially picked USA to win, but I changed my mind. I think looking at Italy, they are strong. They have a good core offenses, but and the USA just not being always at the top. I'm looking at Italy's record this season. They've won 2 World Cups. They made the final and 2 more. They just seem to turn up in the team. They have a super strong core. With again, I've mentioned, but the pedigree that these fencers have at such a young age is incredible, and they have really good experienced leadership with Falcone.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I wouldn't be surprised if USA pull off a not particularly an upset, but if USA prevail. But again, the USA's just lack of ability to turn up on the day in big events is the only worry for me. To me, it will depend on Meinhardt. Is Meinhardt feeling his actions? Because on the day, Meinhardt is the best fencer in the world.
Like he showed it in Shanghai. That was great fencing.
Yeah, and Massialas, we know Massialas will be finishing, but Massialas chasing is a completely different story to Massialas holding a lead. And again, we've seen this World Championship final so many times with different teams, yes, but Cerioni is not Cerioni's first rodeo. He wants to right the wrongs of Tokyo and even Rio when they didn't medal. This is Italian fencing. They rarely make mistakes. We have the same women's sport. They rarely make mistakes. They are conditioned to win.
Yeah, and this is Marini's first Olympics, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Tokyo, he just wasn't quite in time, and now he's the backbone of the team probably.
Yeah, it will. The only point that I can see Italy failing is if they do start getting a bit distracted with a lot of nonsense. Macchi tends to be quite emotionally invested in fights.
Yeah.
Macchi is
he's a loose cannon.
He's a bit of a loose cannon. We saw him against Hong Kong at World Championships, jeering on the crowd. It wasn't his home country, and he was definitely trying to build up a lot of tension. And he has the ability to win, but Marini sometimes can lack the ability to hit. We saw it against Hungary when he lost in the semifinals of European Championships. So Marini he's a really, really good, or can just get caught in the moment of being a bit too patient, waiting for someone to finish, because he has such long arms that he can seem to just flick above flick above the shoulder. But I still think Italy will make it through. They're bound to win eventually, because for me the final of Japan-Italy is the most consistent match that we've seen over this past Olympic cycle. I don't know how many times they've fenced, but they've fenced quite a few times. And I just see history repeating itself in terms of this Olympic cycle. They've been the two strongest teams this Olympic cycle, arguably.
I'm feeling the USA is going to win.
Really?
Yeah. You think Italy?
Yeah, I think probably Italy. I think Macchi, you said Macchi's a bit of a loose cannon. He might be subbed off for the semis, right? Like with the county one.
Yeah, it could be an option to. I think Falcone is so good in the teams.
Yeah,
but
he's the opposite of a loose cannon. Incredibly just.
Falcone is the anchor of the team. He definitely keeps everyone mentally in check. So I think Falcone will fence the entire day in the teams. Depending on who does the best individually, I do think that Bianchi and Marini are stronger, and Macchi will be on the bench. But again, they have so much depth. They could have picked anyone. Gorozzo was forced into retirement because of these selections, but even a Luperi on the team would have caused problems for anyone.
And
for that,
team is stronger than almost every team in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, and for that reason, I think Italy's got it. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if the USA win.
I'm thinking Itkin is rock solid, and probably he's a good one for chasing. I think he can push, he can attack better than almost anyone I know. So in the Marini Itkin matchup, Marini did beat him, if I recall. Yeah,
they're the same generation of fencing, so they've fenced each other about 1 million times already.
Yeah. But against the other members of the Italian team, yeah, like you said, Meinhardt, it really is on him. He didn't in Tokyo. He wasn't quite there, I think.
I think Massialas was struggling as well, so they lost to Russia in the semi-final, and it was sort of everyone. The team just didn't look very synergized, very motivated. It was a Russian team that no one really expected, and was sort of expecting everyone to walk past. But in the individuals, Milnikov had beaten Meinhardt a few days before. Massialas had only made a top 32 because he lost to Jopek. Itkin made a top 16, I think, losing to Brodashev. So they were really not in a good spot mentally. But Imboden can't carry an entire team on his own. So for that reason, I also think that even though Italy have the weakest link out of everyone in Macchi, the other three will compensate for holding the score. However, again, not surprised if USA upset. They're bound, maybe it's destiny for them to make an Olympic final. They have been manifesting it for quite some time. I don't think they want to do a 4th bronze medal match in a row. I don't think Greg is too pumped for that. They want to be fighting for gold, but I still think Italy is the best in this matchup.
It might really depend on how the individual event goes.
Yeah, that is fair.
Do we know how or recall the distance in time between the individual and team events?
I have no clue. I can definitely look it up.
He says 6 days.
6 days. That's a lot. Wow.
Oh, of all the different weapons, the longest break. So, okay,
oh wow. Okay, so I think that then it's quite not negligible, but it's we can definitely we won't see any injury risks or any tiredness show with whoever's done the individual, and they're definitely keeping Falcone on ice for the team event.
If none of the US team pull off medals,
Individual.
I think Itkin is a strong contender for an individual medal. But if he doesn't get one, Meinhardt doesn't get one, Massialas doesn't get one, then I think it might push.
We have to ask questions. My big question would
it might make them perform more strongly because it's like that sort of back against the wall for the result type thing.
okay.
Yeah, this is it's really hard to predict semis. But okay, I vote USA. It's gonna be a 50-50 almost.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we got the final. So
45-42 USA.
yeah, I think it'll be close. It'll be close, but yeah, Italy. Actually, let's do the bronze medal match. So
yeah, bronze medal.
My bronze medal is France USA.
Oh yeah.
And I've got the USA. So kind of going back to your reason for them winning the semifinal, I'm the same reason for them winning the bronze.
They have a lot of practice.
Yep.
USA.
When France lose, they're very easily demotivated. And France mentality is, winning it or nothing, all or nothing. USA are super strong. They match up really nicely against the French. We can recall back to 2019 World Championships. It's a pretty favorable matchup for the US. They just have some flair about them that means that they can just beat this traditional French style. The big red flag for me is if Chamley Watson hasn't fenced, if they have to bring him on, then I think in France's mind, they will start to target him. Which will put a bit of a spanner in the works. It will. We can sit for hours talking about all the different permutations. However, I do think that Chamley Watson won't fence in the quarterfinals or the semifinals, so they will keep him for the final match, which is a risk. But again, they've been in this position before. It's a calculated risk. I'm not saying that Chamley Watson is terrible. However, he is their liability if he's on a bad hit streak. If he gets targeted, then Greg Massialas has to definitely worry a bit, or Misha has to worry a bit about how they approach the rest of the match. Even though I think Massialas will finish, they could change it.
Oh, he's the anchor.
He's always been the anchor. If you're the coach's son, it's a pretty easy. But he's always been the anchor. But I would like to see Itkin anchor.
I hadn't thought that. Yeah, it was Julien Massialas.
I would like to see Itkin anchor. He is the most solid out of all of the Americans. He destroyed Lefort in Washington, which will be for me the ninth leg. But then again, if they have a lead, Massialas can control the final leg quite easily. He's got a really frustrating style of a holding prep. And I think the French just have a tendency to overextend on a lot of hits. They seem to bite off more than they can chew, and get caught a lot of the time. And I'm banking on the Americans' experience to pull through. And so I got them winning the bronze, second Olympics in a row.
Wait, what do I have?
You have Japan and Italy in the. Oh no, sorry. You have France and Italy in the bronze.
Yeah. Jesus, the world's most boring match. That they're both going to be so mad if they each lose the finals. It'll be the anger match. But I would say Italy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think France medal this Olympics.
crazy that they won the last one, and then this is Paris. And,
So this is in no way trying to diminish the achievements of France in 2021. However,
I appreciate your
their run was very favorable. A lot of things went their way. They have they beat Egypt, but then they had a Japanese team that upset Italy, and it was pretty close. I think it was 45-43 or 45-42. Matsuyama had a almost comeback in the final leg, and then you have this Russian team that's a bit unknown, and a Lepeshu whose aura is unmatched, who is the greatest team fencer of all time. A lot of things went France's way. But it is also arguable that France do turn up in the Olympics. You know, they made a silver medal in Rio, gold in Tokyo. Maybe their Olympic preparation is a lot better. I just don't think that their team is as strong as Italy's or the US's. They've had so many dips in performance. The only one that stayed relatively consistent is Lefort. However, we've seen examples where Mertine, Pauty, and Chastanet just don't even make it past the 64. So that question mark doesn't really settle me. Pauty is the strongest out of the other three fencers. And so I'm definitely banking on him to keep the team going, and then depending on who between Mertine and Chastanet will fence. I think it will be Chastanet though, because Mertine is quite old, but he's more of a holder than a chaser.
Interesting to see Lefort in the individual. I can't wait to see that. And because likely, I mean, he may retire, although I don't know. He may continue.
I've heard no signs of him wanting to retire. The only one I've heard maybe was Mertine, but he's still very young. I think he's only in his early 30s. He probably has another cycle in him. He schedules his season quite smart. He doesn't compete a lot. He almost only exclusively competes at World Cups. So there's not a lot of strain on his body. But compared to even Italians who have to constantly be doing national competitions. But again, this is all probably grasping at straws.
Yeah, not that relevant. What do you think? What do you have?
I think for the bronze medal match.
Yeah.
I don't even remember if I can. Like I said, that China would beat France.
Yeah.
So.
And then they would lose to Japan.
Oh yeah. So bronze medal match would be China or Japan against the USA, right? They said they would lose against Italy. So. Well, Japan USA would be a really interesting match to see.
Yeah. I think we're gonna see it.
But
in the final.
Final.
Yeah.
So well, if we're seeing it anyway, Japan USA, I think Japan probably has it. You know.
I don't know.
If you know, they're really good at the USA.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good at having like even scores and then taking it just over.
Yeah.
You know, because they have such a consistent two, Meinhardt and Massialas. And then Itkin can push them over the limit.
Itkin will be doing work, I'd say. Yeah.
How much can they get away with? You know, like the Japanese are just in such great condition. You know, especially Iimura, who will be probably fencing all day. Like you said.
He really is. Shikine, the Shikine question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think Nagano is gonna come out of it. Nagano is solid, but there's a different level. Even with Shikine, we know his ceiling. He is on his day. He is incredible, super fun to watch. But then this brings me to my final, which is Japan-Italy.
Yeah.
And I have Japan winning. I think it's definitely written in the stars.
Japan.
This Japanese team. This is the greatest Japanese team we've ever seen since the Yuki Ota days in 2012. They will avenge their loss. They will bring pride to Japanese fencing. It'll be massive for the sport. And I see them winning the whole thing. Italy coming second. The matchup is close historically. Very close to 50-50. But Japan, again, are so solid. And the question marks with Italy do pop up, particularly with recent form. Losing to Hungary in the semi-finals of the European Championships, to me, is a big red flag and an indicator that there are still issues within the team.
Yeah, maybe it's not cohesively together. Yeah, there's some.
It is a team that has changed a lot, and it has seen a lot of movement, whereas Japan has always stayed consistent since the end of the last Olympics. They've always had this same core. Maybe Nagano and Suzumura always switched, but we've seen that Nagano has had the ability to make deep runs in tableaus and hold the team if they need him. Whereas Italy have seen Gorozzo come through and retire. It is a big blow on them, but that's just how fencing is. And I think that Macchi, Focconi does struggle a few times. We saw him struggle against Japan at the last Olympics. And the matchup of Marini Iimura is, for me, the one to watch, because Iimura has seemed to have figured out Marini, particularly for his size. Iimura excels against tall fences. Because Marini always seems to be fishing for stop hits, Iimura has figured it out and he's found a way to get around it. His recent performances have just told me that Iimura will carry the team, and Shikine and Matsuyama will do damage control and just wait it out. So I have Japan and Erwan Lepeshu winning the Olympics and finishing again world number one. And pretty groundbreaking stuff for Asian fencing. But my top four, so the top four in the world, they are the best teams, but marginally, Japan will win. It will be close in the final, but to me, it's what I'm going to stick with, and I look forward to watching it.
Very much so. Yeah, it's they will be close, and whatever happens, it'll be a great time. So thank you very much for doing this video, Jake. It was really interesting.
Yeah,
and it's good to see you.
And look forward to doing the individual when the bracket comes out.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a shame that the US don't have Imboden. Imboden was such a strong fencer. We do miss him, but he's too busy taking Osterine at the moment.